Jim, your media cell technology looked really interesting. Does it cope with things like on-demand and podcasts and all that kind of stuff as well?
Yes, I mean it's been designed to be as flexible as we possibly can. It will detect depending on where you put the encoder in the broadcast stream. So if it goes into the FM, the DAB, the AM, the internet stream, and because it's encoding signal on the actual content that's being broadcast, it timestamps at that point of being exposed to. So it will effectively cope with time-shifted listening and time-shifted exposure. There is obviously a complexity in sort of managing that, but we designed it to be as flexible as we possibly could from that point of view.
That's very interesting. It's very clear that this country relies very much on diaries. North America has a mixed economy, both in Canada and in the US, a mixed economy of Arbitron's PPM pager and also diaries. Where do you see the future going in the UK? That's possibly a question both for you and for Mark as well, if you wouldn't mind.
I think from an Ipsos perspective, we have some of the charts I put up. We carry out over 500,000 interviews globally per year. So the UK is an extremely important market for us, but we also are involved. We're a global company. There are other countries facing the same kind of issues. So we have to have a global solution. So our perspective is we develop. We have something ready, and when the market is ready, we have the best possible solution for that.
So when will the market be ready in the UK?
I think that is a question perhaps for one of the industry committees rather than for us. What our job is to invest the revenues we get from our clients to provide better and better solutions whenever they are ready for that. It's not our role to push a solution onto a marketplace. It's to offer a range of methodologies which we've always had and adapt the best methodology for the market at the time and the budgets at the time.
Mark from the RAB, you're familiar with Norway, where they use the same technology to measure both radio and TV in an electronic format, which of course means that it's theoretically far easier to purchase broadcast media because it's measured in exactly the same way. What's your view on where we're headed?
Well, I think it's an interesting question. And before the new radio contract, the RAB was involved with a lot of customer consultations, trying to assess what the advertising customer wanted out of radio. And what came back is that predominantly it's used as a trading currency, and what they want within that is robustness, consistency, and I think that's what led to us continuing with diaries, because that was something that at that time Meters was unable to provide. So I think it would be interesting to see how the tests go and the longer term outcome of the trial in terms of compliance and that sort of thing. So I think it's something that people will be interested in from a customer perspective, because possibly it gives a little bit more depth of insight into radio listening and perceived accuracy. And I do think that sort of wider thing about linking, whether we'll go to that stage in the UK is a very different question, but I do see an advantage of linked trading currencies between radio and TV, because you're right, it helps migrate money more quickly between the two.
Every time I mention TV, there's a small electric shock. No, good. There's a question right at the back.
Yeah, it's really a question for Jim. I'm very interested in the technology you've talked about, but one of the things that we know about radio is that, and I think the panel talks about it very much today, is it's a media that's consumed whilst other stuff is going on. Have you done any work when you're thinking about where you're going with the work that you're doing, in terms of looking at, for example, where the mobile phone is during that time?
Yes, very good question. Thank you very much. There are two elements behind that. The chart that I put up, which really looks at the compliance information. So the other information we're getting from the phone covers us in terms of quantifying whether the device is both picking up code words, but then also what other activity is taking place. So we need to work as we've worked in the past with Radar in terms of defining what is exposure. So on one side, if we can talk to you about background noise. Now Radar have really helped us in sort of defining what it should pick up with regard to background noise, and also because it's a microphone, what should be considered to be listening. So they've been great help in sort of advising us along those lines. And the next stage is to, once we have a significant amount of quantitative data and compliance data, to sit with Radar again and to sit with any members of this room to look at defining what is potentially a new definition of listening. And at the same token, on the other side, with the role of the mobile phone, we carried out some qualitative work a number of years ago looking at the role of the phone in homes, and we're just about to embark on a refreshed view looking at some qualitative work looking at how smartphone activity and smartphone relationships within the home. So what are the relationships that people carry out? You know, that are they having the phone with them all the time? Or is it sitting on the kitchen table with the car keys? So we realise it's both a qualitative and a quantitative approach. We have the numbers from the quantitative side, which we need to investigate and work with people, and we're looking at the qualitative side as well to help us.
We've got time for a couple more questions. There are some very bright people in the room, and you're all being very quiet. So, one more question.
Sorry, another question just to respond in relation to when is the industry ready to make a change. I think that the simple answer to that is when there is actually a better system available than what we've actually physically got, the one that's right for the world that's been described today. So I think the key message here is, and Jim's pointed to it, Radio's been involved with providing insight and advice and learning experience that we'd had previously some years back when we looked at people meters as such, and as much information that we're legally able to provide to help this along, we will actually commit to. There's no problem with that. But I think the key answer to when is everyone ready is actually when there's something that actually does provide a better system and a better service than what we've presently got. So we don't want to sort of kill what we have until we've got something that's actually more effective and matches really the cry that Clive articulated.
Yeah, Clive, as the only commercial media owner on the panel, are you having advertising agencies asking you for more information about your audience and asking you where they're listening and who's listening and all of that kind of stuff?
Increasingly, in fact, we all use internally and externally use this term broadcast audience as separated from other audiences now, because Radio estimates our broadcast audience and then we can measure our other audiences. And today we're talking about broadcast audience. And what's interesting is that we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about this morning is for commercial radio is that how this can drive effectiveness of commercial campaigns, because a technology like the one we're talking about now could embed into specific streams of content within a channel, rather than just saying what are you listening to. You could be, in terms of radio station A or radio station B, you can actually encode individual audio events within that stream as well. And so that could be adverts, for example, and you could show different levels of engagement rather than just assuming that if you listened to 20 minutes of radio in your diary that you therefore heard the ad break, and there's an OTH there, actually proving that there's the engagement there. And then secondly, not just adverts then, or different forms of programming that may pull you forward or push you back, depending on your taste as well. So that's where I think the timetable is actually going to be driven from, actually, not from trying to replace what is already a very robust sample-based research system, is actually where we can actually do more and enhance the accountability to our customers in commercial radio, which are the commercial stakeholders, and in terms of the content that we're producing, we want to actually prove that we can actually create engagement. And I think that will actually shape the timetable rather than just saying, oh, when should we move to this?
Thank you very much. Liz has a final word.